Okay, thank you very much, Iman, for the video. It's the first time I'm seeing the video as well, so I don't know if everybody else have seen it. And I terlepas bas lah, but it's the first time I'm seeing it. It's very nice. Uh, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning
Waalaikumsalam.
to everyone. Welcome to um, the webinar, which is an extension of our VNR engagement here at APPGM SDG. I think by now everyone already knows that we do quite a number of things. One of which is this bit lah, which is on VNR, because we were very much closely involved in the VNR preparation process since last year. And we are basically trying to make sure that the document stays alive lah, in the coming weeks, months, and years, so that the commitments that the government has expressed with regards to SDG will be upheld. So we're doing our part lah in making sure that there's some accountability there, especially in the context of the recently launched RMK 13, which alarmed a few of us a little bit lah, because it wasn't really clear on the SDGs, although the government has already issued a reply saying that the commitment is very much there lah. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us. So what we'd like to do today for this webinar is we'd like to invite three speakers, all of whom were actually at the High Level Political Forum in New York. So they were witnesses to history lah. They were representing, of course, APPGM SDG, and also our partner bodies, and they were there throughout the presentations of the VNRs, and they were involved in many of the events during the HLPF. So we want to keep this session casual. We want to make this session conversational, but of course I have to go through the formality also of inviting each speaker lah, to give them a few minutes to share their experiences. And our speakers are Prof. Datuk Dr. Rashila Ramli, who is the Deputy President of PSSM, but she wears many other hats lah. She's also an EXCO member of our Persatuan Promosi Matlamat Bangunan Lestari. We also have Ms. Omna Srini Ong, who is currently the co-chair of the Malaysian CSO SDG Alliance, also a very close partner. And our very own Dr. Teo Su An, who is the Director for the Parliamentary Policy Advocacy Department in APPGM SDG. So without further delay, I'd now like to move on to our panelists' presentations. Maybe I will go according to the order that we have on the program sheet. So I'll be starting with Prof. Rashila, and then I'll invite Ms. Omna, and then Dr. Su. The question we have shared with the panelists is basically to just ask them, or the brief we shared with them, not really question. We'd like them to share their reflection on their HLPF experience overall, and also share some reflection on the lessons or the best practices from the VNR presentation that they saw from other countries, and relate it back to Malaysia, like in terms of what we can actually learn, or maybe Malaysia's one were better, who knows? But these are the kind of stuff that we'd like the panelists to share with us. I'm not sure if you have slides, panelists, but if you do, you can share it yourself, or you can let us know and we can help you to share also lah. So I'll invite Prof. Rashila first. Silakan, Prof.
Okay. Okay, can we move up that slide to the beginning? Okay, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, and a very, very good morning. Thank you, Dr. Khairil, for inviting me and then for being on this panel together with Omna as well as Dr. Su. Yeah, we are the team that made up the Malaysian uh, more of this civil society team going into for the conference, yeah, in New York. That was from July 2014 right up to the 23rd. Okay, so for today, for my the time given to me, what I like to do is kind of to lay out a bit of the background in terms of what high level political forum on SDG is about. How did it come about? You know, who participated? Just to give a background. And after doing that, I'll share a little bit of my own experience there when I was participating for the about 12 days that I was there. Yeah? Okay, we move on. Next. Okay. With the background, if we go back, we actually the HLPF was established um, within the context of the bigger conference of Rio Plus 20 in 2012 as it is outcome. It is called the future that we want. Now it becomes an integral part of this entire global architecture, the platform, and the follow up to review the goals which were signed by 193 countries in 2015. Yeah. So this is the yearly event, and the forum conducts regular in-depth reviews of progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, it also includes, as been mentioned just now, the voluntary national reviews, where country present the findings from national review of progress with a view to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda. So what HLPF does is that it brings together different groups of people in one location. So it brings together the ministerial and the high-level representatives of government, as well as wide range of expertise and stakeholders, including heads of UN entities, academics, other experts, and most importantly to me, when is actually the other major groups which are actually within the civil societies, yeah, and other stakeholders. I don't see as many industries there. So this is another area that maybe we really need to tap upon, yeah, in terms of overall participation or overall engagement in accelerating SDG. And the forum comes under the auspices of ECOSOC and the ECOSOC high-level segment, which adopt the Okay, this is an important. That's why I colored it in red. The negotiated ministerial declaration. So in the end, there is a declaration that comes out, and that the particular document is actually being negotiated even much earlier before the conference, about a few months before it would have been sent to our country through the permanent mission, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it goes down to the appropriate ministry. In this case, it is the Ministry of Economy. So the draft declaration would have gone through that particular process before it comes up to the forum itself. Okay, next. Okay, there are a number of events that would happen, programs. Okay, you have the plenary. This is usually organized by the UN itself, and the VNR reporting is done within this particular realm, and it gets toward that declaration or agreed conclusion. Some of the terms, these are the kind of the lingo that is being used at the UN level. Then you have the side events. Now, side events are events which are actually organized by the member states, by the countries. It can be by one country, it can be a joint country organizers for side events. And then you have the um, parallel events. Generally, parallel events are organized by the CSOs. So there are different kinds of events, and then the location of these events. Generally, plenary site events are done within the compound of the United Nations. They have a number of conference room. Um, I don't know, ATF maybe, and then you have also the one with numbers as well. Yeah. Now, one or two, a few side events can be held outside the UN compound, and most of the parallel events are actually outside. So so you can actually be attending within the compound or outside. And because of that, whichever event that you're attending, you need to get your proper tag that goes with it. Even for each event, we have to register for the different event. Okay, we move on. I'm already 5 minutes. My goodness. Okay, hang in there, you guys. So VNR process, what is it? It is a process where countries review and report their progress, challenges and lessons learned in implementing the SDG. And of course, it's being presented at the high level political forum. Yeah. So for Malaysia, it is very important because it highlights our own achievement. It promotes transparency and accountability, and it also provides opportunity to address gaps, challenges, opportunities for improvement. So overall approach to the VNR, it is inclusivity, sustainability, and collaboration. And I think Dr. Su later will elaborate further in terms of how we process it within Malaysia itself. Yeah. So next. And I don't have the complete total number for 2025, but this is something what it would look like. Yeah, how many days it was at, how many SDGs has been reviewed, um, how many countries have been participating, who was there, how many members of state, and so on. But for 2024, there were the five SDGs which were looked into was actually the first, second, 13, 16, and 17. Okay, move to the next slide, please. Okay. Um, for for 2025, it was another five SDGs, and I'm sure Sue will talk about it. Now, with the roadmap in order to get to the HLPF, there's a lot of work, and this is where we can actually participate. As I mentioned, the draft declaration in the first place also came out much earlier. Okay, so that would be somewhere probably around December, yeah, where the documents would go through the ministry and we can give feedback. And because our country this year presented our VNR, the VNR process in gathering the material, gathering feedback, and the writing of it, that took place from, I believe it was around November also. We go all the way to about March. Okay, the details can be given later. But as you can see, these things, to get to July, everything usually will start around November. So every year, this is a cycle, and we need to know where in the cycle that we can participate, or if we ourselves plan, an organization or a group plan to be in H in the high level political forum, then we need to work backwards, yeah, in terms of our own planning, because there's a lot of things which are involved. The funding, the authorization. We need to get our own self certified in the different whichever that organizations that we are representing. So you can't just walk into it. Okay, the registration process goes quite some time, quite a way back that we need to work into the program. Okay, we move on. So a basic overview of the progress for 2025, and I picked this out of the Sustainable Development Goals report of 2025. What are the goals which we have achieved or on track? So as you can see, the picture is not very good because the one which is on track, which is in the green, it is not as much, yeah, the color compared to say marginal progress, which is the middle light yellow color. And it is sad also to see that in almost all except SDG 5, SDG 7, and SDG 13 that there are regressions. Okay, so if you look at it, there are quite a number, so three out of 17 only, which are progressing, some progressing well, but most are marginally or moderate progress. But the problem is in the areas where you see the red, yeah, the regression. And these are the areas, yes, that we need to be much more aware and see what can be done, especially for our country, for the next 5 years. We would like to see all to be at least in the, if we don't have all green, but at least in the darker yellow, yeah, moderate progress. So these are the things that we need to keep in mind when we look at it. Okay, move on. So Malaysia has actually throughout this year's presented our VNR 2017, 2021, and 2025, which means that we do it every 4 years, which means that the next one we are presenting is in 2029. Okay, next one. Okay, this is the presentation when we made the where our government made the presentation. It was on July 18, 2025. So as you can see, the photo on the left was actually our the ambassador for permanent mission, and then also we have the chair for our Pusat SDG Negara. So this was on the right are photos of after the presentation, and as you can see, the last one is a slightly more relaxed environment that we were in. We move on. All right. Now this was these were the number of events that the three of us attended. There are a few more actually, and each of us can actually share with you others. But I'm just listing the bigger ones that most of us attended during that 12-day program throughout, because you have the first week, then you have the weekend, and then you still have about 3 more days towards the end of it. Okay, move on. Okay, as I said, these are some that I personally attended from the 15th, because I arrived on the 17th, sorry, on the 14th. So yeah, I attended a number of these. Some as are side events and some are parallel events. So okay, also I was registered under the organization called International Network for the Social Solidarity Economy, and they had a discussion also on the online, yeah, on the 19th. So these are some of the programs that I attended. Furthermore, just to flip through this next one. Okay, these were on the last 2 days, but 3 programs for the second week that we were in. The one on the 21st was online, so I was there at 6 a.m. in the morning. While in Malaysia, of course, we are 12 hours in front, so about 6 p.m. here. Okay, 2 more sites event, and that was attended during that same time. Now we move on. So some base, just a very, very quick reflection. Yes, the fact that only 18% of the SDG targets are actually on track. This is big concerns for everybody. Okay, there definitely need to be complementary national statistical data with citizen-driven data. I think one of Omna might be talking more about it, or even Suen later. In the VNR reports, definitely different countries focus on different things. Yeah, while the 5, for example, for Malaysia, while we focus on those 5, we actually did the entire 17 goals. Yeah. In Germany, for example, they actually did not pay so much attention at the local level, but they work more at the national and the bilateral level. So there are different things. And we also establish networks with Finland, SASAC, Japan, Mexico for future collaboration, especially on the monitoring, evaluation, impact evaluation. Next, I would like to acknowledge, thank you to to our SDG Society for the partial funding to facilitate my participation. Thank you to RIPES for allowing me to be one of their delegates. And thank you to BIC for the state-of-the-art meeting room that we had, and just the collegial environment that we were all in. I have just two more slides quickly. Next one. Okay, for 26, 27, there are definitely there's one the HLPF in 2026 will be in July, but in 2027 is actually an SDG summit. So when it is a summit, it is done in concurrent with the General Assembly, so that will be in September. There are already themes as well as goals which have been decided upon. So this is where we can plan ahead in terms of our own work within APPGM SDG, as well as other member organizations that we have here. Okay, and my last slide. Way forward, while we finish the 2025, 2027 is a summit in September. In 2029, we are representing the VNR number 4, and there will be the announcement of a new plan, or whatever the next 10, 15 years might be for the country, for the world in the global level. And of course, by 2020, the end of global agenda, 2020. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rashila. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, but it felt also like it felt also like a true professor's lecture, Prof. I think we learned a lot about the entire process, which is very, very useful for us who were not there. I mean, in addition to the countries you mentioned, of course, we had quite a number of fellow ASEAN member states
Yes,
also
yes,
presenting their
definitely.
VNRs, Philippines,
Yes,
Indonesia,
yes,
um, Indonesia, Thailand as well, presented their VNRs.
yes, time.
But Malaysia's one is indeed unique lah, because we did actually report on all
Yeah. Oh,
17 goals. Yeah. Thank you very much, Prof. Also good to know that there are plans afoot already for 2029
oh
VNR lah.
yes. We
Yeah.
love to plan, and we put it into practice,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Prof. So yeah, hopefully the next few years, ni, as I mentioned at the beginning, we'll be able to keep the key messages of the document alive, because there's a lot that the government has basically committed to lah, in terms of accelerating all the different national targets, especially those that we are still very much trying to catch up on. I would now like to invite Ms. Omna to make her presentation. Okay, the slides are on. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think Rashila may have mentioned the theme of the HLPF. I want to reiterate that, because that's really embedded in everything that we all collectively do to advance this process, which is, the theme is specifically on science and evidence-based solutions. And that's where our whole current conversation on how are we enhancing disaggregated data comes into play. And for me, I'll be very honest, when I saw the theme, I was very excited about going to the HLPF and participate in conversations with peers around the world about this fact. How are we enhancing and science and evidence-based solutions, and that's with the data that comes along. So just wanted to make that point to start off with. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Very quickly, I'm just going to present very quickly some of the areas where we participated, where I spoke as well. I spoke at 5 roundtables there. And I then picked out from a few VNR reports of some of the countries on the themes of gender data and also civil society engagement, okay? So that we can just, maybe for discussion later. So firstly, I was a speaker. Sue and I were speakers on the government's side event that were lessons from development of VNR 2025. And I spoke specifically on CSO engagement. As we know, Malaysia stands tall in institutionalizing CSO, civil society engagement, and participation in the government's SDG governance structure, not only in form, but also in substance. So I think that is something laudable, and a lot of good work was done previously that we are also riding on currently as co-chairs. As you know, for those who may not know, the Malaysian CSO SDG Alliance is on the on that framework, government's framework. We are also chair of the Jawatan Kuasa Kerja for CSOs. So a lot of work in it for us, but we're very excited about it. Okay, next. So there was also, Rashila shared the photograph of when the Malaysian government presented its report. I want to also make mention of, if you look on the right, bottom right, you'll see a CSO representative from Malaysia who presented the CSO statement for the HLPF, which was, the drafting was led by the Malaysian CSO SDG Alliance. And so we're very happy that a Malaysian rep presented that statement. And then we also had this very lovely meeting with Karima. Karima's very close to our hearts. She walked the journey with us over the past few years. So I'll move on to the next one. Next, please. Right, so I was also there as a member of the Baha'i International Communities Delegation. As Rashila mentioned earlier, the BIC, the Baha'i International Community, or BIC, is an accredited organization of the UN, and its office is at UN Plaza, adjacent to the UN building, and it hosted most of our events, all our events. And also they generously avail their beautiful office and meeting room to many of the organizations who come to these UN meetings. So the one that I attended and spoke at was building access to justice and strengthening rule of law, looking at SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 16, and also the general recommendation of CEDAW 41 on stereotypes. What's interesting also for me personally was having the vice president or the vice chair of the CEDAW committee. You'll see her there. She's also a speaker at this parallel event. Yeah, next one, please. I won't go into details of it. Yeah, we can take it up when we have questions. The other one is also very important, and this is the Coalition for the UN We Need, which is also hosted at the BIC office, as you can see here. And it really explored trends and insights on the pact for the future. It also has a monitoring system that they are having in place. So I've put in the link here. We can please go and visit that and see what the conversations are on the UN that we need. And it's so interesting how they're having these conversations ahead of time. Next. I was also, this is our side event, our collective side event. So I spoke on data for SDGs on the theme of counted and being visible. And we had very interesting speakers there. Maybe Sue might get into a bit more on the details. But really, this is where I spoke a lot on citizen-generated data and the need for it, and the time has come. Very excitingly, Malaysian government has signed to the Copenhagen framework for citizen data, and we're already in conversations with DOSM on exploring collaboration partnership on this. And this is something that the APPGM SDG and the CSO SDG Alliance is working on closely. Next, please. So I also was a speaker. This is also, again, our joint event, and where I spoke on gender responsive budgeting, which is something that is in place in Malaysia. and it's about unlocking equal opportunities for all. We also had speakers from other areas as well, other countries who are also talking about inclusion-driven policymaking and SDG localization. Again, a lot to do with grassroots participation. And I think you see this common thread of looking at grassroots participation, grassroots voice and agency throughout the HLPF, and it's gaining a lot of attention and I think a seat on the table. So this is something very exciting for us to monitor as we go along as well. Next, please. Again, I spoke here again on applying ethical qualities through scientific methods to advance sustainable development. And here we had speakers from different parts of the world, from Amsterdam, from India, from I think from the States, and myself, and also others. There's also another full house at the BIC. Next one. Okay, so here I want to share just some extracts for us to just spur some conversations on what some of the other countries have put in their VNRs to what they're doing. And Angola, so I picked Angola. Interestingly, they work on gender responsive budgeting. They have a presidential decree, and that was very important. I want to pull that out, which introduced gender markers in budget programming from 2022 to integrate GRB and assess the impact of fiscal policies on gender equality. And this includes significant investments to programs reducing gender inequalities. And also what's important is that they have institutionalized GRB and they have introduced gender-related oversight mechanisms such as the gender observatories, gender-focused public institutions to monitor and support this initiative. So the critical words are not only have they institutionalized it, something for us to learn, right? It's not about having good policies, but what kind of oversight mechanisms and monitoring mechanisms are there in place where we can actually see transformative results in the lives of people. And that caught my eye. So gender responsive budgeting in Angola, next. Angola has also another interesting initiative about women's political representation. And I've made bold some of the figures that we need to look at. One is in Malaysia, as you know, in terms of women's political representation, parliament is 13.5. Now, Angola, from 2020 to 2024, they've increased it. They had a very good baseline to start off with, 29.6% to 39.5%. Now, in the same light, they also have ministerial posts, 9 out of 23. They have 26% representation of governors, secretaries of states, like I suppose our KSUs. They also rank 35th globally in terms of women's political representation. And how do they do it? They adopted a national gender equality policy, something that we are waiting to happen, and we've been pushing for this. CEDAW committee has also been pushing Malaysian government for this. They also have training programs, public awareness campaigns. So it's very intentional kind of awareness raising, but setting strategies to make it happen. And so this is something we could learn from. Next. In Bangladesh, they have this women's financial inclusion through data innovation. So it's a partnership supported by the Gates Foundation as well. But this is creating a dashboard where they work with where it's the Bangladesh Bank that aggregates the data there, and then they analyze the data and then to understand gender disparities and drive strategic planning. So what they've done is they have prioritized women in refinancing schemes, reservation of quota for women in credit guarantee fund, loan facilities without collateral. You know, that is a huge issue for women specifically particularly in informal sector, cluster-based financing preference. So it's a lot of giving having initiatives that put women in the forefront in terms of receiving this and removing the barriers to women's financial inclusion, including financial literacy guidelines as well. And also on sorry, go back again, thanks. Also to take note that they have also simplified loan application forms. Panir, you work a lot on the ground as well. So you've seen sometimes the form itself can be an impediment. So they have simplified the loan form. So you see, when we have the right data on the most, some people will say, most insignificant information, in asking someone, what was your experience like filling out the application form? And so they had data on that as well. So, that kind of granular data is what we need to collect. Next. Right. Now, Finland, of course, Finland's always been on the forefront, but I wanted to share with you two photos, right? So in 1907, they had 19 women, courageous, bold women came forward and they were elected into parliament. But then 2023, we have 92 women were elected into the Finnish parliament, amounting to 46% of all elected members. We are not seeking anything more than 50%, right? Because we also want the men to be there. But 46%, that's something to speak about. Then, what did I want to say about them? They are elected councillors, also 44.9%, which represents 4% points compared to 2021. Okay, so it's increased. The other important thing is that not only do they have gender equality policies within, but also in terms of their foreign policy. So, in other words, they also call it the foreign feminist policy. So Finland's foreign policy systematically proposes and promotes the rights of women and girls and gender equality. And it's one of the cross-cutting objectives of development policy. And this we see when we apply for international partnership and grants, they have in place the requirement for us to institute gender equality or do gender analysis in the needs assessment and so on. So if we don't work from within, we have external forces that will force us into compliance. But what about our own country also instituting that in our bilateral, multilateral relationships as well? Next, please. Philippines, again, very interesting in terms of addressing gender-based violence. What they've done is really a bottom-up approach, really working with grassroots, working with the people on the ground. They have 3,981 violence against women deaths established in 41,000 barangays, which is the local district, Panir, your area of interest, right? In 41,000 areas, community units, and translates to 93.6% coverage rate. To address. This means you're serious about wanting to tackle it. It's about, these numbers show it, right? Of course, they also have CCTV cameras. Actually, there's another photo of, you see the CCTV camera, what do you call that? That room where they are watching it and monitoring it. They also realize capacity building is needed. So it's not just about setting up hotlines and desks, but also building capacity, gender sensitizing them also. Yeah. Next is also engagement of community volunteers. Sorry, I used the term next. Please go back. Thank you. They engage community volunteers as well who act as desk officers. So this is what whole of society approach needs to look like in intentional approaches, right? Anti-sexual harassment desk as well, in terms of, 2,288 cities with desks, 2,100 enforcers, hotlines, CCTV cameras. Now, this is serious strategy that is in place. And I'll be very interested to hear the monitoring on this so we can follow up with this as well. But see, how can we institute this in Malaysia also in a big way? Next, please. Next. Thank you. They also have, this is something interesting, Kyril, Sue, in terms of, and Ken as well, the community-based monitoring system that they have. And I don't say too much about it, but they have this, it's a tool designed to track micro-level impacts of various adjustment policies and policy shocks, particularly on the vulnerable groups in society. But what's interesting is that this is established by law. So there's a punca kuasa, as we say, that has instituted this. Oh dear, I'm almost done. But what's interesting, we need to follow up on this and see. Maybe you've already heard about it, but if we haven't, let's go and invite them maybe with a conversation online. Next one, please. So for Indonesia, again, it has also started a repository of good practices. I mean, what APPGM's website alone is a repository in itself of good practices of solution providers and what's being done. I just wanted to share what Indonesia has is the digitalization of good practices, and I think they invite civil society and something the CSO SDG Alliance can also think of. That means beyond solution providers who are registered receiving grants, these are just civil society organizations on the ground who are doing SDG work. So that'd be good to have as well. Next, please. I think we're almost done. And in Finland, I wanted to bring attention. So what's the big deal about community dialogue? Don't we already have it? But this is something they are institutionalizing. They are making as culture, as practice in the community. And again, we talk about democratic action and the knowledge, volition, and will and volition action of the community and individuals on the ground need something to facilitate that process, not just town halls when you have it. So what they had was they had dialogues they're having a culture of dialogues just to talk about what brings us together. What kind of world do we want, right? And also the other interesting point in Finland, the local governments don't work alone, they work together. So they have also established where several local governments come together and they work together and coach each other to create better voluntary local reviews. I thought that was really exemplary and something for us to learn from as well. And a conversation with urbanis, perhaps. Yeah, next. I think we're almost done. Bangladesh, very quickly, digital tools for nutrition and food waste reduction and bringing applications such as this to people. I'm sure there's a digital literacy program that's attached to it to make it workable and usable, user-friendly. But what's interesting is that it has online courses, real-time field data tracking to improve food safety enforcement, and also awareness and accountability in reducing food loss and waste. Quite interesting to how we use AI and technology to solve problems as well. Next, I think we're done. I think that's it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Omna. Well, that was really comprehensive. So we've toured around a few countries, and I think there's a few things that Omna has highlighted. One of which is, of course, basically involving everyone in, I think, not only monitoring but also in actually drawing up strategies and policies for for this for them to be effective. And I think the examples, the range of examples is also very, very good, because we've seen examples of countries which are maybe socioeconomically on par with us, but we've also seen examples like, of course, Finland, which is far ahead in many respects. But we also saw Bangladesh, for example, a country that's been rife with crises, but one that has also been able to institute some very good locally driven initiatives, to the extent of actually making sure that form filling and all that is accessible to local women, especially in Omna's example. So I'm recalling, I have a vague memory of this, but I think early this year when we had our parliamentary roundtable discussion, there was this issue about how sometimes things are so difficult on the ground for people to access loans because of all these problems with how complicated forms are and how convoluted the process is, and all that lah. There's something that interested me as well from Omna's example when she mentioned Angola and this term presidential decree. Sometimes it feels like, at least personally to me, sometimes it's when you take stock of these examples and you see the differences in the political systems as well. Sometimes you can see how certain things can trickle down more effectively compared to say, there's this debate between the presidential versus the parliamentary system, because I took a look at Indonesia's VNR as well. So Indonesia has a lot of initiative that's very much based on the perintah president, the presidential
We've seen the
decree system.
same, Khairil.
Yeah.
I mean, just very quickly, we've seen the same in Malaysia. A policy statement in the national budget can get everyone running. For example, in I think 2022, the Prime Minister announced that I want to see 30% of women in all public listed companies. And next year, I mean, by next year, they were all cracking on it. So sometimes we need that, and it happens.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you very much, Omna. We'll take questions and comments after this. I'd just like to now invite Dr. Su for her sharing. Silakan, Dr. Su. Do you have slides, Dr. Su? You will share yourself or we'll share for you?
I'll share it myself. Thank you,
Okay,
Khairil.
okay.
So hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. So usually, I think we did this once before with the EXCO member. So usually this will be the sequence of it. We have Prof. Rashila and Omna to share like very comprehensive presentation of what happened during that day with beautiful slides and pictures. And then the last one will always be me, the boring one. I don't have pictures even, but then I will just tell you what happened during that day, and also to fill in the gaps of some of the events that I have attended, which Prof. Rashila and Omna are attending something else. So for the past 2 weeks that we were in the HLPF. So on the 15th of July, or maybe before that, like what Khairil mentioned, I am presenting APPGM SDG to attend the event. So just maybe a background of it. I attended in Bangkok UN ESCAP a couple of years ago, and then once again with Dr. Dennison and Khairil. Before then, this year I went again for the UN ESCAP. So when I went for this event, I always wonder why not APPGM SDG can also do a side event during UN ESCAP or HLPF, because SDG localization by APPGM SDG is very innovative. And before this, I read in the literature, I read a lot of other materials online. I realized that the models that we do, the methodology that we use for SDG localization hasn't been really practiced or hasn't really been done before in other countries. So having said that, not to say that other countries not doing the SDG localization, they are. A lot of country has already presented the VRR, Malaysia too. But then if you look at the definitions of SDG localization, it stops. The process stops at the local councils or the local government. So the local government should be the one spearheading the whole localization process. But with APPGM SDG, I think you all will have already been very familiar. We are engaging with the grassroots communities. So after attending those events, I kept on saying that maybe we should do our own side events to on the one hand to promote the methodology. Maybe more countries should take it up or adopt it to include the grassroots communities, and we can also show how we can have these best practices that we can share, our experience that we can share, and to more importantly to showcase that it is feasible to include the grassroots communities into the SDG localization process directly. Of course, and another thing eye-opening for us is really that honestly speaking, for us to engage with the members of parliament in our localization process, it hasn't really been a smooth journey along the way because of our political dynamics that play a very important role. And how is it that APPGM SDG always have to be bipartisan, and it reflects, or it says a lot of situation, or rather the degree of maturity of Malaysia politics at the same time. But then during these events, I realized that members of parliament participating in SDG localization is actually can be a norm to to a lot of other countries. So they see members of parliament as a part of the governments that should, and common sense wise, should be participating in the SDG process. So again, Malaysia has this unique kind of a political bureaucracy, but at the same time, we have also engaged very actively with the grassroots. So on the one hand, yes, to promote APPGM SDG, but on the other hand, it's really to showcase the methodology and to show the feasibility of it. So so the first event that I have gone to is on the 15th itself. This in alone, I mean, when I first participated, I told Omna when I came out from there, and then I told Dr. Tennyson, I may be a little bit out of context when I presented in this panel discussion. But the more that I think about it, the more that it seems to show the relevance of it. So in this panel discussion, I was really replacing Dr. Dennison to present this, and I even took my colleagues to ask them took me to Kampung Kelanang in Kuala Langat to meet with the small scale fishers precisely for this panel discussion. Because the panel discussion, as you can see, the title is about reduce, reuse, and recycle. It is more on the resilient, the circular economy, the resilient coastal and marine ecosystem, and then it is talking about Asia and Pacific. So the scope itself is very global level, very international or regional level. But then when I was presenting it, I was a little bit honestly, just to be very honest with you, I was a little bit uncomfortable because I am talking about Kampung Kelanang. I am talking about a group of fishers, and there are not many of them, maybe about 20 to 30 of them. But I again was the third speaker. So the previous speakers, they were talking about ocean toxifications, they're talking about pollutions, they're talking about marine cultural lives and all that. Then I came in and say that, well, let's look at the fishers' perspective, and I have this particular one in Kampung Kelanang. But the issues that they face are very relevant. They are talking about mangroves situation, how the mangroves has dilapidating, and then how the fish stock are dilapidating. I sort of give a perspective from the grassroots, and the more I think about it, I think that's precisely what APPGM SDG do in terms of SDG localization. We can be talking about global issues. We can be talking about something that affect at the very an international level, ocean toxification and all that, and the relevance of it, that how is it that we translate this kind of a global agenda to the grassroots communities. And I think that I be able to showcase that with this case study. So this is just something that's afterthoughts. After like a couple of weeks, I come back here, then I process it. I realized that, oh, it's actually very relevant. And then after that, because my involvement in VNR directly, I have also participated a few side events. Some of them are initiated by us. We try to tag along, like what Prof. Rashila have mentioned. It was a tedious process, but I think it was really worth it, because in order to register ourselves with a side event, like what Prof. Rashila mentioned, we do need to be from the member states, and we need to have the ECOSOC registration. So it took us a while to lobby to different organizations for us to make it into the side event. The advantage of side event, yes, on one hand, it can be seen as an official event. On the other hand, we can get publicity from the UN, which they will put it on the website. So we can highlight it, and then we have more audience. So we managed to have like a couple of side events. We pitched 3. We got 2 into the side event, 1 as a parallel event. Even that, we have also engaged with a lot of CSO, a lot of member states to discuss about SDG localization. So overall, I would say that we have accomplished our mission, or at least APPGM missions, which is really to share our experiences, share our SDG localization methodology with other member states and also CSO. So a few highlights from the 17th, and maybe I can even say about the 18th event, is really to discuss the VNR process itself. So this year, VNR Malaysia take pride in the process of preparing the VNR, which is rightly so, because we engage with different stakeholders. We have a via various regional consultation in various parts of Malaysia Peninsula and Sabah and Sarawak. So I think Khairil was also one of them. And then we were sort of being seen as like an expert, and Khairil, Dr. Dennison and Debbie took up the SDG 16 and 17. I took up the People's Pillar, which include SDG 1 to SDG 5. So then during the 17, we have a few countries to share the experiences with us. Particularly, I realized that Bhutan is actually using the similar approach of using the multi-stakeholder engagement. And interestingly, they have also have attempt to include the grassroots communities in the VNR process. On the 18th itself, we have another VNR. This one, I actually did it together with the few CSO representative to discuss the CSO engagement in the VNR process. So here is where I get like a first-hand kind of engagement, and also to understand or feel the sentiment by the different CSO, and that on the other hand allows me to reflect and appreciate the engagement and also the partnerships that we have already established in Malaysia in terms of CSO and the government in SDG and also in VNR, because a lot of them say that they have not be able to effectively, or rather they think so, that they didn't have a really good effective kind of engagement with the government. So here we have ADA, we have Civiscus, we have GCAP, and a few countries that we to do the roundtable discussion to discuss how else that they can do, or what else that they can do in terms of for them to be able to engage with the VNR process more effectively. On the 21st and also the 22nd, we did more on these good practices and strengthening the data finance and etc. I think Omna and also Prof. Rashila has also mentioned this because we participated in this together. So here for me, I get the chance to really properly present the APPGM model, SDG localization model, together with other countries, and especially with the CSO partnership in that sense. So I know I was one of the panelists, so it allows me to actually talk about our APPGM model more effectively. And on the 22nd, we have been talking about how is it that the grassroots participation is very important. More importantly, how is it that we can include them into the whole SDG accelerations. Over here, I share again our struggle, and also how is it that we are trying to include the grassroots into our VNR process by using our qualitative data from the APPGM SDG. So I realized that during this presentation, or rather during the session, a lot of this sharing that we have, people are not just us, a lot of other countries are also struggling to make sense of, or rather to triangulate the data from the statistical national level data together with the qualitative data. So that kind of a community-based community data dashboard, it was quite a big buzz, or rather it was in an active discussion during the HLPF and in a lot of sessions. So this is one of the sessions that we talk about that. So yeah, we engage with people from representative from Japan and Mexico, which is from the Prof. Rashila's network. But I do have to mention Ken was there during the discussion. Thank you so much, Ken. So it was a surprise. But then yeah, from Malaysia. So. Besides that, there are some other events like what Prof. Rashila has mentioned by the CSO that we have also managed to participate. One of them is the Civil Society Weekend Workshops, and then we do have the C4 UN HLPF official site event that they try to track the progress and mobilize the regional strategies. Again, they're talking about a community-based community data dashboard. Over here, again, just to reflect back about the Malaysia context, is that I can see how the CSO, some of them are quite frustrated in terms of their engagement with the government. Some of them are quite then they are quite impressed with how is it that we managed to do it. So I remember Omna and I were saying something like it's not something that we have done overnight. It is a lot of advocacy and a lot of discussion, a lot of talks, a lot of conversation with them to actually build the rapport and also the synergies to work with them. So I do have to say that though we have a long way to go, but compared to other countries, I think our relationship with the governments are actually stronger now, and we gain the momentum of gaining the trust, which is quite encouraging, especially for SDG. I do personally also believe that with partnership, we do need to have multi-stakeholders kind of a partnership. So whether we agree or disagree, or we agree to disagree, I think that working together with the government in terms of achieving the SDGs are the key. So some of the reflections that I have already mentioned just now, something that was quite excited and we decided to pursue with Malaysia's SDG CSO Alliance. It's really the citizen data dashboard, something that we have already in the discussion. And then, as I mentioned before, CSO, the engagement are viewed quite differently. Although they lamented about the fact that the engagements are not good, but on the other hand, they are also being very careful, which I think are quite interesting. I can see that they are quite cautious in terms of their partnership and engagement with the government. They say that they don't want to don't want to be seen like they've been married to the government, and then because then the divorce will be ugly. But then I was thinking that it doesn't have to be a marriage. We can have partnership, right? So and then the in terms of this terms of partnership with the government is also very fewly or very scattered, sporadically mentioned only. A lot of the time they're still using the terms like fighting with the government. I think I understand in terms of the context of political context in Nigeria, in Congo, but quite surprisingly, even in Germany, during the weekend CSO workshop, we have the Germany representative, I recalled, and they say that for CSO, we have a lot of us has already lost our faith with the VNR, and we are not participating in the VNR at all. It is solely just the government perspective, something that they have mentioned. Then I talked about the members of parliament, how it was a de facto participation of a member of parliament in the VNR process in a lot of countries. Perhaps because I was so confined with just Malaysia context, it is something very refreshing for me, but apparently it is for them, it is something that is common sense. So yeah, I stand until today. I still think, even though after going to HLPF, I realized that APPGM SDG localization process is still very innovative. It is still something that no other countries have taken up or effectively taken up by the member states, because we have the support from the governments, which is for them. Whenever I say that we got the funding from Ministry of Finance, their eyes either lit up or just widen, and it's sort of disbelief for them, some of them. So I think that the uniqueness of APPGM SDG, it's still there, even though we have worked on the same similar model, though we continue to evolve. Until today, it has already been 5 years. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Su. Very interesting sharing there, because we've gotten an insight into how you're moving between these circles and what sort of sentiments and also views that were being shared, especially from the CSO side. There's a lot of CSO views that's being shared, but I think it's interesting to just also to go back to what Prof. Rashida said earlier. There wasn't really much of a private sector representation during this process, because I'm aware that at least in Malaysia, the private sector also believe they also have data to share with the government in terms of monitoring progress and all that. And they feel that they're being left out also in that conversation, since we are on this issue of citizen-generated data. And then also just to pick up on what you mentioned about this de facto involvement of parliamentarians, I have to say, if you take a look at our VNR document, it proudly mentions that parliamentarians were consulted, which 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 is a
know,
bit
right?
curious lah. But it does actually from the very beginning. It lists like MPs also were consulted. But you're right lah. I think a lot of countries actually do they take it as a given that the legislative body is an important part lah of the VNR process. I think some maybe outside the context of this HLPF, some even actually share the document with parliamentarians before the document's finalized. So I think this from our side needs to continue lah from the perspective of our advocacy work. Thank you so much to all the speakers. I think we've learned a lot, and I'm sure there are questions or comments that will come from the floor. So I'm happy to invite anyone to just raise your hand, and I'll invite you to the mic. You're welcome to do your own sharing as well if you like. Though we won't give you 15 minutes lah. Anyone?
Actually,
Pioneer has switched on his mic, so
No,
silakan.
sorry. I post in chat box actually. I want to ask about it's like what Dr. Su says also the partnership, the marriage between government and CSOs. When Ms. Omna, when you're presenting about MCSA's position in Malaysian National SDG framework, how the reception from the other countries, what they actually see, whether they see it in a negative way or they see there's a good collaboration, good synergy or what?
I think at the Malaysian government side event, yeah. So I had also told them categorically that I'm not coached or asked to say all this, but also said that it like Sue said it took time to build trust, but also let's also be very frank that we are also while we have the seat on the table, we are also seeing a growing receptivity to CSOs speaking their minds, being honest, being assertive about where the gaps are, and also sharing from our practitioner and expertise. What is the data on the ground? What are the lived realities? So we see receptivity to that when we present at government tables. And that is what we share. That it's not like, we're not singing a song which is, narrated by the government, but we are independent voices who are sitting at the government table. And once we sit at the government table, there's no us and them, and there's only we. And in all sincerity, we have to be like that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Panier and Omna. Anyone else? James, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Su, and also Omna and Prof. Rashila. It was a very enlightening sharing that three of you did. I'm just wondering while three of you were sharing, I'm just trying to analyze our work, our APPGM SDG. Yes, of course, we are very proud of our achievements and our work, and what Sue has said that we are very unique and things like that. We are actually into an exercise that we are working on with the directors and with the staff team, the 5-year plan from now till 2030. The last lap, the 2030. So I'm just wondering what advice three of you could provide us. That we should look into for the next 5 years. It's just that there might be some gaps. Of course, it's not everything that we are doing. It is achieving, or it is target oriented and things like that. So we are also looking at some gap analysis, how we can actually further improve our outcome, our output, our outcome to the community, to the parliamentarians and things like that. So because Omna, Sue, and Rashila, they are very close to our work. I mean, you all know what we are doing. If you see if there's any gaps or what we should do for the next 5 years, based on all your presentations that you have made, what specific areas we should focus from now till 2030, so that we could have a more refined in our approach and in our delivery to the parliamentarians on policy work and also on the projects and so forth. The overall organizational focus and direction for the next 5 years. Maybe if you could, three of you could provide some thoughts to that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll let all three panelists speak. I'll maybe invite Prof. Rashila first. We go in the same order lah. Yeah.
Excuse me, can I say something? Hello.
Hi, Ms. Sarojini. Hi,
Yes.
is this related to Jim? Sorry, is this related to James's question?
No.
Okay,
It's
so
entirely
can I take your question after the speakers have addressed James's question, if you don't mind?
right.
Yeah,
Thank
you'll
you.
definitely be called after this. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Prof? Yeah.
Okay, this is pretty much just from the observation, my own involvement with APPGM from the very beginning. Okay, and we already have, and we only have like 5 more years to go. I think number one, it is very important to ensure that we continuously keep up with our capacity building. Okay, capacity building within the organization. Okay, capacity building, yeah, within the organization, which means within the secretariat itself, because we do change people. There is a turnover there to a certain extent, so we need to make sure that whoever takes over, so internally, that is one level of capacity building. And then the second level of capacity building is definitely with our solution providers in all the different programs, yeah. So that is another area that we need to look into. So capacity building is one big area that we need to work on. The second one is when the Omna touched on the repository, the collection of work that we have. Okay, how can we make it more visible? How can we make it more reachable to a lot more people? Maybe this is where we can offer it to the different, both the local and the private universities. I'm just thinking offhand at this point, how can our data, our writing and so on, because we publish a lot while it is online at the same time, sometimes maybe a campaign of that needs to come into place. So that is more of an outreach. And number 3, definitely to prepare for the 2029 for the next VNR. And also if we put into the 5-year plan, even the I think the summit coming up in 2027. So that's the 2027 and the 2029. So that is more at the national towards regional and global level. So I think at this point, those are some of the 3 suggestions that I can give. Capacity building, more visibility on our own resources that we have, very rich resources actually. And then the third one is in preparation for the 2027 and the 2029. Okay, that's what I have for now. Thanks.
Omna?
Sure. I think we have to go back to what is fundamental in the SDGs, which is leave no one behind, reaching the furthest first through a whole of society approach. And so I think I would like to think of it as indicators or litmus test of our success is, I suppose, when we cannot attribute the achievement of the SDGs merely to ourselves. I feel that's a litmus test. So we can't say that we did it. Whereas it'll be like having the whole of society on board to an extent that we don't know who actually contributed to what, but it was a collective approach. I think we should see it in that light, and I think we have. But sometimes it's because of timelines and all that we get, we ada kekangan. But I think we need to really make visible a lot of the ground solution providers, community voices, the voice and agencies representing not only aspirations, but how they are actually no longer beneficiaries, but champions towards their own, they are change makers to their own lives. So I think, how can we give them voice, agency, and visibility? And also, here we say we are APPGM, but again, like, how can our members of parliament also be very, very present and vocal, not only at debate, but also in the SDGs? Thirdly, I think we've already got that process sort of in place, is how can we ensure alignment of SDGs and beyond? That means another international framework, including international normative standards, which are human rights, embedded in human rights, be used in our monitoring framework. And I know we already putting that in place. I know that. How can we have that embedded, institutionalized in our 13 Malaysia plan, which coincides with 2030 and beyond? We don't have a presidential decree, but how can we make sure that we don't have a situation where we don't see the international normative standard language in our national development plan? Thank you.
Thanks, Omna. Also, just before I pass to Dr. Su, I think that's you raised some very important points. I was actually thinking when you were showing all these examples, sometimes there are organic practices that's already there that needs to be showcased or that needs to be given agency, as you mentioned earlier, kan? To make sure that this process is not a contrived one. It cannot just be a formality, but you do need to actually highlight the fact that there is actually a lot of things that's happening on the ground already that are basically in consonant with the stuff that we're looking for, but they perhaps are actually not spotlighted. So I think this is where we come in also, and this is why data from the ground is so important. Dr. Su?
Thank you. Thank you for the questions also. Well, I am working directly with APPGM SDG, so I am aware that James has been knocking doors to ask for answers from us, but it is working that, I mean, to be able to wanting to step back while I am so involved into this can be a challenge in itself. But I'm more coming from the fact that we have a massive pool of resources as we speak in APPGM SDG. We have I'm not talking about money, I'm not talking about the materials or the infrastructures that we have, but I am talking about the data. A lot of our data are sitting there that we are at the same time actively trying to update them because of different initiatives. We have a lot of also very initiatives on the ground. My involvement from 2021 until today, I see that our involvement are expanding every year. We were conservatively thinking that we will only engage with the members of parliament, but now look at us. We even gone to the district level, and we are now trying to highlight the grassroots participation, regardless of the district officers' kind of a bureaucracy and governance system. So now it is really to step back. If we're looking at the next 5 years, the momentum that we have is already ongoing. That I don't think that we will stop anytime. So I think we will still go full force until the 2030. But at the same time, we also must be able to step back. Somebody, or rather, some of us will need to step back to relook again the progress that we have gone to reflect again, to start doing the analysis and to evaluate, and also to find out how is it that we can use this qualitative data to contribute to the SDG, to the Malaysia SDG. Like what Khairil say, that we have all of the data. I mean, not just Khairil, I mean the whole idea about limitation of data, we don't have enough data, has always been the narratives. But we do have data, as I always say, but it's just the recognitions of this data, it's not there. Involved in VNR, it was quite a struggle to even putting the APPGM data into it. And when I was speaking to the permanent residents, I also told him about the APPGM data, but his response to me personally was saying that, well, we want the absolute convincing data. We don't want something that it's half truth and half not truth. That means he's trying to gently say that maybe qualitative data is just not objective enough. But we have gone to 143 kawasan, and we will cover 222 kawasan before 2030. We did try to allocate some time. We have been allocating some time to evaluate. I think the evaluations or assessment or the measurement of our work should start now that we have the 5 year. Otherwise, I don't think we can finish doing the measurement, evaluation, assessment when we reach 2028. I mean, that's the target that we want to finish the 222 parliamentary constituencies. Having that 2 years, I don't think is enough. I think the mechanism of evaluating to step back to look again the whole model of this SDG localization has to start from now. So I think then internally we have been talking about how is it that we can do that. I think it is in ongoing already. That is very important. So to come back to Omna's point, to align ourselves for the next set of probably another global agenda. For the next, I don't know, another 10 years or another 15 years, it has to start, it has to have the continuation. I think that it will be a continuation. It's not something new, but to have the continuation, again, we should have already the review reports or the reviewing sense that where we are in SDG. Personally, I don't think we will achieve the 17 SDG by 2030, but then from then what? To jump into it immediately or to be able to just adapt to the new global agenda in a more quicker sense, it has to start, we have to start to have already our report cards, or rather to know where we are, where we stand by 2028 and then by 2030. So again, I think now while we are still continue to go full force with other constituency, we have to start the mechanism of assessment, measurement, putting our qualitative data, making it triangulating it with the DOSM data to find the synergy. I think we have that, but then we need the acknowledgement of that with the DOSM, with the government, for the government to acknowledge our data at the same time, and to use that to measure our SDGs achievement more effectively. That will give us a real sense of where we are and what is it that we want to do next. So I guess I suppose that I hope it answers questions. But thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Su. I think just maybe to respond to your recollection about what was being said about half true and half not true data. This is the thing. I think, to be fair to not just the Malaysian government, any governments that are dealing with the SDG, if you take a look at SDG 17, there are indicators that demand the government to comply with statistical data. So a lot of governments will just take that as one of the sort of key things that they need to execute lah. So there's a lot of I mean, not even a lot. I mean, there's this feeling that there's an absolute requirement for monitoring to be done numerically because of some of these indicators. And that's what I realized when we were working on the partnership chapter for the VNR. So if you're sitting in DOSM or you're sitting in KE, you're just going to tell your stakeholders, actually, this is what we're doing. And Malaysia has done really well in terms of expanding all these different SDG indicators at different levels and all that. So I think that may also be one of the issues that has brought about this problem for us. So last year when I went with Dr. Su as well to SCAP, it's funny how even the UN folks, they characterize the kind of data that we want to showcase as non-traditional, quote. So traditional for them would be the standard statistical data, and then all the rest will be non-traditional, alternative. So that's I think one of the reasons why we are at this juncture with regard to data, and why there's so much pushback sometimes. But again, just to echo what the speakers have said, there
Irene,
is an openness as well.
I'll just add something to what you
Yep.
said. I think we are at the threshold of a data
Mm.
revolution in terms of
Mm.
how it's being reconceptualized. There seems
Yeah.
receptivity. And so because what the data they have cannot give a proper comprehensive
Yeah.
situation analysis,
Yeah.
and they know that, and they are
Yeah.
open to it. So I think we're really in a good place.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so that's the good news lah, especially as we enter the final 5 years of the implementation of the agenda. Okay, Puan Sarojini has been waiting. So I'll pass the floor on to you, Puan. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to congratulate your team for the good work that is going on now, and we are really doing well now, Malaysia. Okay. I would like to give my view as you have invited us to contribute towards your journey. I am very concerned about about two things. It's not only about the erosion of the environment that is going on, but it is also the erosion of humans' poverty well-being level. So I'm sure you're aware that women now can live 20 years more. So we have not estimated for that. So we have estimated about how they should go and how they should financially be independent after retirement, etc. There's no point. I'm more concerned of the B40s, the very poor. So how they move from this level to the other level. But they don't realize that when they go after retirement, that they are going to become poorer. Why? Because of health conditions, because of what they have got during their lifetime. Between the ages of 40 to 60, they had started getting their non-communicable diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart and all. Now, if we can help them with that under the health conditions, they can save a lot of money when they get into the next level and not become poorer, after working 20 years, 30 years, 40 years so hard and go in there and practically become in the mercy of their children who can't help them and they themselves becoming. So the poverty level, that bracket will become much more, maybe even doubled. So there's no, they might as well not work, so hard. So these things has to be solved. And so on one side, we have to teach them about how we should not get these diseases. Non-communicable diseases you can save them from that when they get into the next bracket. There are so many people, because of their awareness, they don't have diabetes, they don't have high blood pressure at that age, after 60. So they are living 60 to 80, and that bracket has to be looked after. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the comment. I can open the floor to the speakers if you'd like to respond. Is there anyone?
Maybe just a quick response. Thank you, Sarojini, for bringing up the very important issue, because I remember when we were reviewing the RMK 13, there are sections on care economy, and this time it is much more apparent that attention is being given to the fact that our country is definitely going into the aged community, and the fact that there are needs to attention must be given to health and so on. Preventive is one thing, the cure part is another thing. Yeah, in terms of the cure part, so to speak, attention are also be given to caregivers, not just the person themselves, but the person who are caring, both men and women as caregivers. So that's one particular area that at least which was not which was almost like taken for granted before this. At least now it is apparent in the policies and so on. So there's one section. And definitely what you are saying in terms of the preventive part, yeah, for people to have better lifestyle, to have better food, or at least be aware what to eat, what not to eat, what to make sure your lifestyle, to your exercise is in your, those kind of things is just as important. So once again, the continuous education, the continuous awareness, I think that has to be much more embedded in our, basically our daily life, yeah. So so on two fronts, one would be definitely through the education system, the other one is the livelihood itself. So yeah, just my 2 cents worth at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Omna?
Yeah, in terms of the aging population, thanks, Saro, for being here and also raising some of these points. I think maybe something that your organization can do and also FOMCA can do, and also APPGM, also MCSA, all those are working on the ground, is to pay attention to two particular realities that sometimes we don't see. And that is where of the aged population that reside with families. They may not have voice and agency, number one. Number two, they may not be mobile. They may not have control over their finances or even decisions in their life. And so we may have two situations. One is intra-household poverty, and where, let me give you an example, it could be just the STR where they can't go to the bank and get it, whereas they authorize someone in the family who gets it. But we don't know if they actually are beneficiaries of whether it's used for medication, for anything for them, or even to put the money in their pocket. You know, that's one. The other one is financial, associated with that is financial abuse, where you don't have the autonomy over your own money or what's your right. So, or family household money is denied. And so I think for us, who can pay attention to this? Those who are working on the ground, those who are actually working with local PPR communities, go beyond the front door and ask questions pertaining to that, to gather that data. Because I think that one is really very much in what we would say terlepas pandang, and people who are population that's falling through the cracks. So I think Sarojini's organization does a lot of work on the ground. And I think if you did this one added lens to have a bit of a binoculars view into households, I wonder what kind of data we might gather.
If I also, we just add a little.
Go ahead, Dr. Su. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about care economy and also the aging, health, and etc., the government is aware of it. But it is now, honestly, from what I have gauged, it's really how is it that I think the government is trying to find ways to solve, or rather to find a mitigation in terms of these issues. On the one hand, the KPWKM, we can tell you that they don't want to just give out money anymore. They don't want to just give out subsidies. They don't want to just give out welfare aids or monetary kind of aids. They want to have something that's more sustainable. But what would that be? It is still something that they're trying to grasp around it. With that, I also believe that now it's also the window for us to pitch our idea of how is it, what are the suggestions of solution that we can do. Again, coming back to the whole point of partnership, we have a lot of expertise, we have a lot of awareness on the ground. We have the CSO, like organizations that are doing it. So it is for APPGM SDG. I now it has become a words that maybe APPGM SDG can help. But what I think APPGM SDG can do is really to be able to link up this CSO together with the government. Only if you have a proposal of how is it that we can resolve the issues. Of course, the government should be the ones as a custodian, but I think that to resolve this situation and the aging population, and it is coming very rapidly as we speak. So it is a very worry kind of a situation, especially for the B40 group. We were talking about eating healthy. For them, it's luxuries. So how do we balance that out? It is what government is trying to find out, and they need help. So if the CSO do think that they can do something to help, what APPGM SDG can do is maybe to bridge the gap, to bridge the network, to again trying to find opportunity for engagement. While APPGM is still here, something that maybe we can help to do in that sense. So I mean, I hope that helped to also answer some of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Su. Andrew has raised his hand, so I'll take Andrew's intervention as the final one before I pass the floor to Dato'. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you very much, and sorry to join the meeting late. Greetings from Bangkok. Just listening to some of the things, I wonder whether we've actually touched upon some of the more recent regulatory and legislative developments. So first of all, I recall raising the issue of the urban renewal bill at the last meeting that we had. And there was a response of saying, well, there are also some concerns about it from even the planning community. So I'm wondering, in terms of inclusivity, whether and also things like affordable housing and those aspects of SDGs, how can we better improve the engagement on this, and how to highlight the serious concerns that a lot of people have about the whole concept of urban renewal, whether at the federal and state level. And then attached to that is something that I think perhaps we may have overlooked, partly because we were not aware of the changes, especially in the federal territory, about the need or the requirement to get planning consent, and how that has been very disastrously, I would say very badly overhauled, such that now it's up to DBKL to even decide whether or not they're going to even make known development proposals, and whether or not to allow for people to raise objections or to give feedback into that that whole planning approval process. I think this is it's a step backwards for inclusivity. Certainly you are leaving people behind in terms of them not knowing about what could even be happening at the next door neighbor level. So I think this may be something that has not been a part of the consultations with the grassroots and with the different constituencies. But I think, given the fact that it has developed more recently, I think we need to act on that. So those are just some sort of tail end points that I would make. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think you've given a lot of suggestions about how we can actually respond to ongoing developments. I'm wondering if any of the speakers would like to come in on that. Just a quick response.
So I just wanted to say that I think where APPGM and even the Malaysia CSO SDG Alliance, what we can do, and also other organizations can do, is to ensure that when we go down and meet the community, that one of the modules, if you like, that we need to cover is raising awareness on people's rights. People don't know what their rights are. Number one is that knowledge, right? And then also the volition and action. So how can we build capacity in them to, number one, understand their rights, for them to somehow devise a plan individually or collectively? When you go down to the PPR, the number of the network of leadership there is mind-boggling, right? They have the JMB, the Persatuan, the floor head, the block head. So between them, if they could do something more productive like that, to gather data, to understand how they can act on that right and demand it from the duty bearer, of course, government at all levels. I think that would be something that we could do already for them. I know that DRA is already running that. I mean, I'm also part of that process of helping individuals and CSOs understand rights and how to exercise that rights and how to ask for it.
If I may also just add on that, APPGM SDG has this approach that Omna has described. We have a couple of projects. One of it is really the Cheras projects. I don't know whether James or Panya can help to also explain a little bit more. While we started the whole project, it was like overdevelopment. We were a bit of a I was thinking that what is that all about? But we have now been able to mobilize the resident association. Quite many of them can Panya or James can
Yeah, yeah.
explain a little bit. It can be done, and APPGM SDG, like what Omna said, we helped by funding on in terms of getting the data, mobilized to get the survey, to do the survey with the residents, and to prove out, to make the case, and then to use that data as a basis to do memorandum and to move forward the whole activism in terms of trying to. Maybe they don't stop it, but maybe to slow down the whole process of overdevelopment in Cheras. But we don't do it in a confrontational way. But I think it has going on for like 2-3 years by now. And at this point, the last time that I met them, they have been able to build partnership with DBKL. To do that kind of a negotiations. They've been able to find the leverage to ask the DBKL to sit down and discuss with them. And the DBKL even sent representative to be one of the panelists to one of their conferences. I don't know if Panya or James, maybe just one couple of minutes to explain that. I can't do it any better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem, Dr. Su. I think we started that with our Cheras issue mapping as overdevelopment as one of the major issue that we are actually tackling. And then from that, we actually allocated some micro budget for the resident association to come together, form some alliance in between them. And thanks to Mr. Andrew as well, he's conducted the legal capacity building for all these the RAs. And then finally, actually, this is like in 2022, way back. And today they have a coalition registered as a Kuala Lumpur Resident Association for Sustainable Development, KLRA plus SD. And they impacted like last year, the Kuala Lumpur Master Plan. Now the URA is actually their biggest fight. I can say fight because they are actually advocating for the better ones, a better version of URA. And also currently the DBKL enactments that reducing role of house owners, role of the people in the planning, decision making, and so on. So this something started from our issue mapping, and today they are actually growing better. They have come up with publications on policies on urban development, slope development, and so on. Actually, so these are a few things. They have a website as well. You can Google it, like KLRASD. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Panir and all the speakers. I think we're very much on brand lah, with, it's an APPGM discussion, so we're very localized. We've gone very local. We've discussed a lot of issues that are close to our hearts. But I think just before I pass the floor to Prof, there is, of course, a global elephant in the room lah, to me as well. And I'll probably pick the brains of the panelists later because they were there. I was wondering whether or not discussions surrounding apologies, whether or not there were discussions about how the next 5 years will look like lah, with all sorts of geopolitical issues. I recall SDG 17 actually has an indicator for promoting free and open tariff for trade. And of course, that's one issue. And then I was recalling as well Omna's point about Finland's feminist foreign policy. My wife comes from a neighboring Nordic country, and they are, of course, the trailblazers in this sort of feminist framework for a lot of things, including foreign policy. But the foreign policy position of many of these Western governments, especially towards what's happening in Gaza, for example, has been appalling lah. So these are also the kind of issues that are interesting also lah to dissect later. But that's for later. I will now pass the floor on to Prof in New York.
Okay. Thank you, folks, especially to Prof. Rashila, Omna, and Dr. Su. I thought your presentations were quite interesting, quite reflective. I think Omna brought a lot of new dimensions on lessons learned from other countries. Most often, we talk about what we have gone and done in New York, but what are we learning? And I think, as others have said, Prof. Rashila's background information is also helpful. Huh? My closing comments will only focus not in the last part of the discussion that brought to localizing SDGs in Malaysia, thanks to James, that diverted the whole discussion to the 5-year plan. I know James is writing a paper, so that is, I think, in the back of his mind. But I think it's a fair question. What new thoughts would you have after New York? In that process. But I'll only highlight on this global aspect of the SDGs. So the whole idea is HLPF. It is a New York-based event. And what are some things that were highlighted and what lessons for us and what directions we go at the global level? I think firstly, this linking which Prof. Rashila did very well on localizing to the global agenda is a very important theme because it is holding governments accountable to a set of goals, targets, and indicators that they collectively agreed after Millennium Development Goals. So it is not as a tough, rigorous process as the UPR, but nonetheless, it was showcasing what they are doing, and many countries have openly acknowledged they are not reaching the targets. So part of this global, that means we at the ground here, 143 parliamentary constituencies, linking with global and having a global perspective is an important dimension. If not, we'll be very insular, but we have a global outlook, and that has a bearing to what rich countries should do. What should Malaysia do for other countries, at least for a start, ASEAN, rather than just talk about ourselves and our development? I think in this context, this conference, HLPF, and the subsequent ones, I think Rashila rightly pointed, 2027 and 2029, when our VNR, 2027, the summit, which might set the agenda for the next phase of the SDGs, is actually the Doha meetings in November on Social Development Summit. It's going to set the next agenda for the SDGs. So the Doha Summit, which is a carry-on from the Copenhagen discussions on social development, is quite key. That's the global link. So we are part of a global movement, and we need to be part. And it's great that this year 3 women have gone. Maybe next year 3 men should go. But I'm not saying that, but it's very good that we had the 3 going. Secondly, I think the time to network and learn from others is quite key. I think so far, even I have not drawn lessons like what Omna has done. What were best practices from other countries? And I think that's an important process to pick up from the other VNR, other case studies. What can we learn from the localizing of SDGs in other countries like the Scandinavian or here. A good example, I myself am shocked, is Angola. Angola seems to be doing better than us in some of the indicators. We always think Malaysia is great, but then to benchmark with Angola, we fall short on the statistics and the numbers and the outcome. So I think networking, the friendships that we build at HLPF, but also to learn from the various teams, I think is highlighted. And it's an ongoing process because we can go in person, but we can also participate or hear everything online. The third point, which all three actually shared with us, is a time of sharing our experiences in the site events. So I think Sue mentioned in great detail, of course, Rashila and Omna as well, in this context, through site events. So it's not direct participation in the actual sitting. Actually, in the year 2022, when Rama, Zoel, myself went with YB Rohani, who was our chair, and we all at that time, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, gave us official pass. Actually, all of us had opportunities to be speakers representing the government. YB Rohani spoke once or twice because as a former minister, I was assigned a role on the CSO platform. But that kind of opportunity of partnership with the government team, I don't think we have been able to capture it because of how foreign ministry didn't want to give passes or said the passes are restricted. But actually, a very good opportunity for us to share, and this was highlighted. Now, fourthly, a theme is there is no rational excitement of participating in HLPF. No interest in the media, no real interest in organizations, even governments, government agencies. I think urbanists did quite a bit through housing and local government, but it seems to be a quiet affair, and that it seems to be a distant event. And that results in the way we think about our role at the global level. So we see ourselves as local actors, national actors, but not trying to influence the global process and make the world a better world. So we are more thinking of what is it in Malaysia, our government, our this, and so forth. While it's important, HLPF provides that global opportunity. So how do we activate interest in our grassroots for this global thing, and how academics and others will be interested to know, to follow, because it is the global thing. It's the only global thing that is taking development concerns where governments are coming together to talk about it. And it's almost 2 weeks, and then you got the ministerial segment in that process. So that excitement is not there, like how this year ASEAN was, because it's in Malaysia, but it shows our insular mind. We are not global actors and operators in that context. So that's there. And it leads on to my final point on global advocacy. Most of our advocacy is internal, it's our own writing, it's not in the external context of seeking to influence the UN system or influencing our government from New York, because government is very sensitive because they are making global promises. The VNR document is a global declaration of Malaysia's commitment. But because it's not presented in Malaysia, very often it's not honored in the same way, or we are not holding the government accountable. So I think this is where some of our work, which James needs to note, at least we say, let's think of ASEAN, which is nearby. It's not that costly to travel, to document. So we said in the next 5 years, we want to see what can we learn and share with ASEAN countries, poorer ASEAN countries, with our model. I think Dr. Su is right. I think ours is a unique experience of APPGM with the multi-stakeholder, and now with much more government at the district level and grassroots organizations. Because we have about 1,000 organizations. It's not a small number, and it's all over the country that are registered organizations that have received grants from us. So it's quite massive. So it's in that context, how do we get them to think of a global advocacy in that? I know for a fact that Zowel has some contact with Kenya, where they are wanting to visit us and wanting to engage to learn our experience. ASEAN is something that we said we will do and then take on. So I think our role in the SDG roadmap, our role in the next VNR 2029, and the system of monitoring that we are talking between 2026 to 2030 at the grassroots, at least in where our 6th zone and regional office is, and at least in the 55 districts that we have the current budget through what Panir is coordinating, at least take on some of these things into monitoring and preparation for the next level. But I think we need to, in some way, have a clear strategy of Malaysian participation in the international realm. So where are Malaysians in international organization? Where are Malaysian resource persons? I can only think of Martin Kor and the Third World Network, and that's also gone very quiet now. We have had Jomo and so forth. So the kind of young people moving into UN-based organizations into a more global perspective is something I think we SDGs. So leaving no one behind is not just here; it's also Rohingyas, it's other communities, and I hope that HLPF creates that opportunity and space. It's a very expensive place to be in. I know that for a fact. Being in New York, it's pretty expensive. The kebab and others from the side stalls seem to be more affordable at 10 US. 10 US rice and curry is quite pretty expensive. And the hotels are unbelievably priced. But a global engagement is necessary, and we need to find ways. So, James, a question for you and the panel later is how to encourage more Malaysians into the global arena, that while SDGs is local, we have a global responsibility as well. And that will be something we have 5 years to unpack. And I pass the time back to Kyril. For me, it's midnight here in New York. I think those of you at the office might have a nice curry and gravy. So thank you very much. And thank you for the three panelists. And I think circulating this recording and the sharing of the three people is, I think, important to create awareness that Malaysians went to New York, they participated, they contributed, they learned something, and they have come back, and we can learn through that process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. So we've come to the end of the webinar, but please don't drop off the call yet. We'd like to do a quick picture taking. But before that, I'd like to echo Prof's appreciation to all our speakers. Thank you so much for sharing your reflections, your insights, your analysis from your experience in the HLPF. I think by now, we've already done more VNR engagement than PSN, Prof. So I think we can be proud of that as well. I think we are the torchbearer also for this very important document. But you're right, it's a challenge. It's making sure that it's very prominent in the thinking of not only policymakers, government, but also everyone. So I think we should definitely continue this initiative. Thank you to everyone who's joined us as well. Always a pleasure having all our friends joining us in all our programs. So I'll now pass on the floor to Iman, I think, for the picture taking. Iman, hang on. If everyone can also switch on their cameras. Kalau boleh lah. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. So till next time, take care. A good long weekend ahead and Selamat Hari Merdeka.
Take care. Thanks, Khairul.